Let's take a look at chord spelling, which is actually our main goal for this video. When we spell these chords, we first determine the root of the chord that's being tonicized. Then we pretend that we're in the key that corresponds to that root. Then we spell 5/7 or 7 diminished 7 in that key, and then we resolve the chord appropriately. We're going to take care of just the first 3 steps in this video, and step 4 I'm going to leave for a different video. So let's take a look, for example, at E major spelling 5/7 of 5. Step 1 says to determine the root of the chord being tonicized. The chord being tonicized is the bottom Roman numeral. So I've got 2 Roman numerals, X, Y, X, Y. Y is the chord being tonicized. Okay. So the root of the chord being tonicized. 5 in the key of E major is B. Next, I want to pretend I'm in that key that corresponds to the root. Okay, so here I'm going to pretend I'm in the key of B major, and I want to step 3 spell 5/7 in that key. So I'm spelling 5/7 in the key of B major. So once I've figured out the bottom Roman numeral, I no longer care about E major for the time being. I am pretending I'm in B major and I'm spelling 5/7 in the key of B major. Okay, so 5/7 in the key of B major is F sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and E. That's the chord I want to write on the staff. So F sharp, the sharp's already in the key signature. A sharp, I need a sharp there. C sharp, again taken care of by the key signature, and E. There is 5/7 of 5 in the key of E major. Why don't you try this next one on your own and then come back and we'll take it up together. So A flat, 5/7 of 5. Make sure you write the key signature for A flat first and then follow through the first 3 steps. Okay, so first the key signature, B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. Step 1, determine the root of the chord being tonicized. So 5 is E flat in the key of A flat major. Step 2, pretend I'm in that key. So I'm going to pretend I'm in the key of E flat major. And I'm spelling 5/7 in this case. That's my top Roman numeral, right? So 5/7 in the key of E flat is B flat, D, F, and A flat. So that's the chord I want to put on the staff. B flat, D natural, F, and A flat. Let's go on to the next one, D minor. The first 2 we did in major. This one's in minor, and it doesn't change the steps at all. There's not anything additional to think about here. So step 1, I want to put in the key signature. Okay, so there's my key signature. Then step 1, I'm still determining the root of the chord being tonicized. So 5 in the key of D is A. Now I'm going to pretend like I'm in A major. Here's where you might have a question. You might be thinking, well, I'm originally in D minor. Shouldn't I be pretending I'm in A minor? And I'm going to answer that in just a second, but for now, just go with me with A major. So in A major, I'm going to spell 5/7. 5/7 in the key of A is E, G sharp, B, and D. That's the chord I want to put on the staff. Here's E, G sharp, B natural, and D. Now, A minor. If I were to think in A minor, right, and I were to spell 5/7, I would spell E, G, B, and D, and I'd need to raise the leading tone, right? So G would become G sharp, and now I have exactly the same chord as in A major, right? So if you think, A major and A minor have exactly the same dominant 7. So it doesn't matter whether you think in major or in minor, but if you think in minor, you need to remember to raise the leading tone. So that means it's probably easier for you to think in major rather than think in minor. So remember, you can always think in minor for the key that you're temporarily working in. Okay, this last one, E minor, 7 diminished 7 of 5. Why don't you try this one on your own and just be very careful that you're spelling 7 fully diminished 7 and not 7 half diminished 7. Okay, so the key for E minor is 1 sharp. And step 1 is to figure out the root of the chord I'm tonicizing. So in this case, that would be B. Step 2 is to think in the key of B major. I'm going to spell 7 diminished 7. in B major, 7 diminished 7 is A sharp, C sharp, E, and G natural, right? Be very careful here. The difference, remember, between 7 diminished 7 and 7 half diminished 7 is the third that's on the top of the chord. When you have a minor third, it's fully diminished 7. If you have a major third, so if I were to have a G sharp, that would be half diminished 7. So here I want G natural since I'm spelling fully diminished 7. So there's my chord. Here's A sharp, C sharp, E, and G. Notice that every single chord we've written here has an accidental included in it, and that's going to be true like 95% of the time. So when you're spelling these chords, if you find you don't have an accidental, really double check that, because chances are something went wrong in the process or you forgot to include an accidental on the staff, so really double check that. Okay, just a few other notes here. These chords, all of these chords that we've written, are sometimes called secondary chords, okay, or secondary dominants, as opposed to the primary chords that we've already learned. These are secondary chords. Or sometimes they're called applied chords or applied dominants, and that's because they apply to a chord other than the tonic. So there's kind of two terms for you, secondary chords or applied chords. And then the other little piece of information I want to point out is that we've done 5/7 of 5, 7 diminished 7 of 5, and I've mentioned the possibility of 7 half diminished 7 of 5. But as we know, half diminished 7 chords are less common than fully diminished 7, so we won't see them quite as much as we will the fully diminished 7. The top Roman numerals I've got here, these are the only ones that can tonicize something. And the reason for that is because those are the only chords that contain leading tones. And you need a leading tone in order to make something sound like a tonic. So as far as tonicizations go, you should only expect to see 5/7 of something, or 7 diminished 7 of something, or 7 half diminished 7 of something. You'll never see a different Roman numeral on top. In terms of the bottom Roman numeral, though, you'll see all kinds of possibilities down there. For now, we're only dealing with of 5, but in later videos, we'll talk about other Roman numerals. So that's it for this video.